this first episode of my zoo Americus. It's gonna be a franchise zoo, and I'm gonna be in several episodes building up this zoo from scratch. And of course, being a franchise zoo, it means that we have to balance money, and it will make it a little bit more interesting, I think, a little bit more interactive, and we have to balance out animal welfare. So I chosen the location here at the north of America in a temperate climate, and of course, because we have to build out without any money, we're gonna not start with the entrance, because the entrance will cost us a lot of money and will not give us any income, so that will be done in later. So in this episode, we're gonna focus on actually building a first habitat with an animal that will be quite interesting for everybody to see. And in some of the later episodes, I'm gonna build a beautiful square and entrance. At least I hope it will be beautiful in the end, and that you like it being a nice entrance as well. But first of all, I'm gonna build a entrance animal, and for this I have chosen the otter. And one of the reasons I'm choosing this giant otter is because it is a South American animal, and I have limited myself a bit. I always feel that when I'm building a zoo, it's great to limit yourself with choosing an animal and with animal choices, because otherwise there's so many animals and there's so many to choose from, and you will go absolutely crazy. So limiting yourselves gives you a little bit more of a idea what you want to do and what kind of style you want or where you want to go. So I thought out a lot about this zoo already, and I thought of making this a really nice American zoo, and then I mean North and South America, and just making those two continents really stand out. And of course, being a zoo situated in the north of America, it's gonna be of course very interesting that they can showcase their own animal wildlife as well. So what you're seeing now in this speed build is that I'm trying out to get the pathing right. As most builders that work with Planet Zoo know, that pathing is quite finicky, like everybody's calling it finicky, which I find really a funny English word, and making it just fit out, that it actually stands out like the way I want it. Of course, giant otters being nice aquatic animals, but also it's great that you can look into the habitat. They don't use up too much space, but they're very interesting for people to watch. So they have a lot of attraction for the visitors. So I thought that would be great for a starting animal. And of course, being a water aquatic animal, I really wanted to choose and do something with the water as well. So I'm making a part here of the raised habitat, so we can make a little bit of cave entrance on the water side, so people can really watch the animals swim underwater. And that's something I'm doing right now, making sure that I can make that cave, and that's using the tunnel version there to make the first cave entrance. But I always feel that the problem is when you use tunneling, you always have the bottom also being tunneled out, and I think that's really, really ugly. But so I'm trying to get that right here, to get the bottom to match up to the path. And later on, I was paving everything with concrete, and so I shouldn't have done so much trouble actually to make everything flat again, because at the end, paving everything with concrete, you wouldn't see the gaps anyway. But at that moment I found it that I didn't know yet that I was going to do that, so everything needed to be flat. And of course you need to fix out that the water can't flow out, so we can have a nice water level, so the full glass will be covered and you can see like the water very clearly from the bottom. So that's something you have to like figure out here. And then of course the size of the habitat needs to be the correct size. The size of the water space was also needed to be correct. And of course, being such a shallow pathing, it was also a little bit hard to get the ceiling to match up and to get the right height there without getting any holes in the ceiling. So that was quite work. And then I was getting a lot of rocks again at the top, so that would be again a problem. And I know later in this episode I was really trying to get those rocks out of the way because people were not going into the cave, and of course I want all the animations to work correctly so you can see the people walking in the cave. All right, so I have the sizes all correct, and I was looking at the habitat of the giant otters, and actually they're quite jungly animals, which I thought absolutely lovely because can make a really nice jungle atmosphere here. So I was using the standard wood here for their cabin, just making a small log or jungle cabin for them, which being their insides part where they can be held, where there will be some small cages. I'm not really a great builder of being the backstage areas, but I do like to make some backstage, so it's a little bit more realistic in the backstage. It just gives me the feeling that it looks really nice, and of course I'm not somebody that really plans out how I want it to look. So I just start building, and then at a certain time I think, oh, that looks nice, oh, that's what I want, and then I start creating how it looks. So yeah, you can see here now me using the pieces to make a small cage for them. So if any keepers needs to put an animal separate in a holding pen, then they have a little holding pen. But of course the giant otters wouldn't be animals that needed to be separated for cleaning their habitat or feeding them, because they're quite, I think, friendly animals that of course they can bite their carekeepers and caretakers. They will bite them maybe if you arrest them, but I think they're quite harmless for any caretakers, so they don't need what the elephants and the rhinoceros, where they keep these huge cages where they can keep the zookeeper separate from the animals to keep them safe. So I just make a small holding pen, and me looking for the right item is always I always feel like it's wonderful to have all these DLCs and all these options, but I'm always scrolling through these giant lists of items. And I know you can favorite them and stuff like that, but I just somehow never do that. Maybe I'm just a little bit lazy or something. I don't know. I don't really do that. Now you see me putting up some more backstage items, just hang them on the wall, so they're a little bit out of reach of the animals maybe, or something. I don't know. It's what was my thought here, and then I was like, oh, it can be a little bit smaller. It doesn't need to be this big. And then in the end, it turned out that it was okay that it was smaller, but the holding pen was blocking the exit too much, and there wasn't enough room, so I had to change it anyway. Here is me putting up a palm leaf roof, so it will match up with this jungle cabin theme I was looking for. But it was a little bit difficult to get it sitting right somehow on the building. I was just looking, and it was just not right. It wasn't sticking out the right way. I just was not feeling good about how it looked, so I keep retrying it and replacing it. All right, so here I was looking at the different type of rocks and nature that the animal needs, what kind of habitat, and I always start, of course, like most of us do, with the rock work, and I wanted to make a natural boundary, so I wanted to use a lot of rocks to make a nice natural boundary. And in the end I wanted to also make sure that the animals can't escape. They are not huge animals, but they're still big enough to and can climb a little bit, so I need to make sure that the rocks were big enough but still had a nice entry and have a nice visual view of the habitat. So I'm just placing tons and tons of rocks. Bridges, just making sure that that's all locked off. The animals can go underneath there. And of course, where the walking bridge of the viewing platform for the visitors will be, there will be later on a little bit of a fence, so that will be fenced off. And I think that fence will be the only fence I will be using in this. So the cabin is like the barrier and rocks, and of course the viewing platform would be rocked in as well. Actually, I just love using these rocks a lot as a basic shape. It's so very easy. They fill up lots and lots of gaps, and then later if you just put some plants in, you get like a really nice look. Also, these smaller rocks then can be really nicely placed, so you don't see the curbs of the asphalt. So it really looks nice. So, what you see now is getting those giant otters, so I can test everything out and see if the otters can escape now before I put my plants in. I always like to test it out, and also getting those animals to come in right away, right now, makes for me that I can get sure that I have the rock work all correctly and have everything in the right place. And of course, having all this water, I totally forgot that I needed to make a water purifier, because of course those little otters will really foul the water otherwise quickly. So I made sure that I had done some previous research in some of my other zoos, which makes it a little bit more easier. So I did already have solar panels, which made it easy because you can just plunk them out and place them anywhere, and you don't have a lot of problems with the customers complaining about this ugly buildings that they don't want to see, which is always a problem, because sometimes I'm just decorating like hell and still they're complaining. It's very, very annoying. I was trying to readjust a little bit of that road there because I was thinking it wasn't looking correctly completely, and then afterwards I was like, oh no, it's not gonna work. I was trying completely wrong. Oh, here you also see that problem I was talking about, that the otters wouldn't be able to get out of this first area, the backstage area, and then they couldn't get through that gate, which also reduced the size of their environment. And I was like, oh, very, very annoying is that when you make those rooms just like a tad too small. And I think later on I just gave up opening that gate enough so they could just get through. I was like, okay, then they don't use it. It's not necessary. They have a small inside area, and they just don't use it. Of course, what I didn't know actually, which was surprising for me, is that I had too much water in their habitat. So I needed to reduce the water as well and give them a little bit more of land. And I thought that was quite annoying because I thought there were quite aquatic animals and quite a lot of swimming, that they did lots of swimming. But in the end, they actually needed a lot of land. And here you see also the escape routes here. being the giant otters, they're quite really a lot bigger than the other otters in this game. The small claw otters, they're tiny compared to these otters. They're like, and so they're kind of like a lot better at climbing. So I had to make sure that the rock walk was a little bit higher and they couldn't escape. But when that was done, I was completely happy with that, and I saw they had lots of room, so I can start out with planting and just making this look like a beautiful jungle oasis where they live, but still keep the inner part of their habitat free enough so they have enough space to keep walking around, because like I said, I had already too little land to keep those little otters happy, so I wasn't really I didn't want to use up too much space with plants there. And of course you have the visitors that want to have a nice open view of those otters, so you don't want to put too much plants there as well, because it will block their view. And being those giant otters, they're not too bothered by being watched by humans all the time, so that made it quite easy to fill up, to don't fill up everything. And of course making those beautiful water lily pads. I just love those little, well, they're not little, they're huge. Using those lily pads, and especially if you have a nice aquatic animal where you have lots of room for making those lily pads, it just looks so amazing. I just love it. And I'm putting some of the jungle ferns here on the house to make it give it more of that jungly look that I was going for, that it is like a jungle cabin, and really blend it into that habitat, making it look good. And of course on all those rocks, making that look like you're on a riverside or something, just putting lots and lots of those roots in to really make that come alive. And I just love those roots. I don't know why, it just always looks great. You get immediately this jungle feel when you use those roots. It's just amazing. And putting some small rocks in there as well, just to give a little bit more texture. Was actually last stop I did. And then I started building on this sign, because I loved building a little bit of our own signs, but I still like to use the regular signs as well. I use them as like a backdrop most of the times and just give them something extra. I don't go into the trouble of making a complete billboard for myself. And the fun thing about this as well is that it still works in the game. And I found this little cute sign package on the workshop of Steam, and they're just excellent of using and just like pimping up those signs, making them look a little bit more special and giving some, like there's some extra information there or something. It looks really nice, and just making them just stand out a bit more. So what I just generally do is just making signs and then give them that extra vibe with some special things. And here, because of the jungly feel that I had with these animals, I thought the sign really needed a jungle vibe as well. So I put some leaves around it and some plants to really make that jungle vibe shine through a little bit in that information sign as well, with those greens. So actually this was one of those signs that just went really, really quickly. I can just have been working on the sign and just redo it like 20 times because I'm not happy. And this one just went so quickly. I was like, wow, this that's made it a lot more fun. So here I'm putting a little bit of a concrete curb on this sidewalk. This is also because what you see a lot is that with the animations that the visitors really walk around towards that, close to the side, and it just looks like they're hanging over, and it looks like if I want to make like a railing there, then it just looks like they're hanging through the railing. So I think I just made the curb to just give that slightly extra size to the sidewalk that we needed to make that those railings there. and just make it a little bit more believable, and of course hide that ugly yellow curb of that part of the path. And so that went really quickly, and then I was like, okay, I really like the look of that wood we used for the sign. So I was like, yeah, I think we can use that as well for making the railings here for this habitat. And being a little bit raised above the habitat, of course there needed to be some glass in there, because just people kicking or accidentally dropping stuff into the habitat, you don't want to have that. So it's quite simple but effective. It's a nice little railing. It's close to the sidewalk, so we have a little bit extra on the other side just for little accidents, I think. Well, maybe normally there would be some kind of other safety measure for people not throwing stuff into the habitat. I don't know, but I thought it wasn't too much fuss here. Actually, when I was making this movie today, I was thinking, you miss a little bit of sign of not feeding the animals here or not throwing anything into the animal habitat, that we're missing something like that. But yeah, I maybe have to put that extra in later. When I'm working on this zoo again, I can make that little sign there. All right. And let me see what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, just planting a little bit more. So that part of the zoo is like full of nice little plants. And like the backdrop of the habitat is also filled with greenery. So you have this beautiful view. And of course, then I was a little bit less restricted about what kind of plants I was using, because I was restricted by the needs of the animals. So I could use a little bit more of the other plants. And you have these huge ferns that are really amazing plants because they look so tropical and they fill up spaces so quickly. They have sometimes it's very annoying because they're so big that you can't possibly get them anywhere in. But this was just ideal, filling these gaps here, and of course using the small ferns. And what you see here is the speaker also I put there with the information, just making sure that the information need is well kept. And of course we need to put some other stuff in there, like a small bin and stuff, so we needed to put that as well. And this is the finished habitat from above. If you look here, you can see the habitat, the finished habitat, still quite not finished completely. It's of course, in the next episode, it will be filled out more with plants and beautiful. And of course, the cave is not completely done. The part of me fixing that concrete inside, you can see the concrete here. I didn't tape that. I lost the tape for that, so I'm sorry. Making the concrete and all the stonework inside. But yeah, it looks really nice. And I will fill out that later as well, because that little cave, it was just costing me too much money to just make it right then. I was thinking, okay, when I do a little bit of the habitats later in that direction, I will finish up that cave. And you can see it in one of the later episodes how it will be looking. And here we have the top views from that little bridge, and you can see you have these amazing views into this habitat of the otter. It just looks wonderful. And we have our donation boxes, of course, just tucked away a little bit, hidden, and the information board. And here you have the road going all the way around the habitat. And of course, from here later on you will go to also past different habitats, but for now you go down here, and here is that concrete work I was talking about that I did, just getting that right, and all the stonework inside, and some little plants, and just making a small bench here. It was really nice. And here you have this beautiful view of the underwater part. It just looks amazing, especially with those roots just sticking out. I just love those little roots just stick poking through that really gives you the feeling like you're looking from underwater. There's the bench and the sign. So this was the first episode of me building in Planet Zoo. I hope you liked watching. If you liked, give me a like or subscribe to follow me along how I built this blue zoo Americanus to a higher level and building more things. Thanks for watching and have a great day.